Okay, we've got a lot to cover this video, so let's get that all over and done with, and then we can actually get on with the gameplay. Well, first of all, let's go over the commanders. Vilis Broker of Blood, Krenko Mob Boss, Gargos Vicious Watcher, and Grismold the Dreadsower. Some fun commanders going to come into play this game. Our hand is a bit heavy mana-wise, so let's get rid. Yeah, that's a lot better actually. So we can go in for Myriad Landscape. Probably crack that on turn 3. We might go for Read the Bones instead. We'll see what our opponents do first. But yeah, anyway, as you may have seen with the previous poll, I was looking to spur on the gains in the channel that have been lost recently. And I don't know if it's a YouTube thing or a people not liking Eldraine thing, but that's by the by anyway. Okay, let's just get on with our turn. We can play that, pass over. Krenko just started with a basic as well. My aim was, until very recently, to drop the daily videos and go for a few multiplayer games a week with no 1 versus 1, because multiplayer games tend to be more popular. I was just going to try it for a few weeks and see how it goes, but you've all swooped into the rescue and asked me not to change anything on the channel. An Elvish Mystic from Gargos. So the first spell of the game being cast there, and they are starting to ramp into their commander pretty quickly. We'll have to hope they don't have much more ramp in hand. So yeah, lots and lots of people asked me not to change anything in the comment section and on Twitter and places like that. You wanted me to keep some 1 versus 1 content and the daily videos. Another land for us. Let's just have a quick look at Krenko. Untap a target creature. Well, that's really good with Krenko, isn't it? Let's get down the Myriad Landscape, a tap land. And then we can tap that down and pass the turn. I think we are going to go for a crack on Myriad Landscape next turn. Yeah, what was I saying? So you all wanted to keep the dailies and some of the 1 versus 1s, but then a lot of you want more multiplayer games as well, so it's a hell of a feat to try and attain, because I'm using up all my free time on this channel as it is, as well as working full time as well. It's not like I'm just sat at home with all the time in the world and just decided to start doing this with my spare time, you know. Grismold playing a land and passing the turn, going for Cultivate. The Gargos player going for Cultivate, so definitely continuing to ramp. A couple of turns off their commander, I'll bet. Yeah, I am working full time, and so just like everyone else, I have a very finite amount of time to do the things I'd like to do, as I'm sure most of you can appreciate. Hall of Triumph, an Anthem effect for the Krenko now. We finally get into a non-land, so let's go for... What's the snuff out? If you control a swamp, yeah, you just pay life, so we can actually get rid of Gargos if we want to. Let's crack the Myriad Landscape and get some ramp of our own on the go. We'll go up a land here. And swamps are very important in a black deck, because there's plenty of cards that care about how many swamps you have. And yeah, thanks to all of your feedback, I've decided to actually keep the daily videos. I do really like the idea of people using the videos in an evening to wind down, or they start their day off in the morning before work, or before they're off to do whatever it is that they do for the day. Some people listen in the kitchen and things like that, or we all get a plant token because Grismold comes down. Yeah, people have all these stories that they tell me about how they consume the content, and that's always really great to hear. And I'm always coming at the perspective of also being a fan of EDH gameplay videos, so I appreciate how it would feel to lose the consistency that I assume you all enjoy with this channel. So I've decided to keep the daily videos and the 1 versus 1 content. Polukranos coming down for Gargos, the first Hydra of the game. Might see Krenko here as well, although he won't have haste. And there we are. Speaking of haste, a Goblin War Chief that will make Krenko cost less, and he'll come down with haste. He'll come down with haste, and this thing will be able to untap him as well, so that's something to look forward to next turn. A lot of 2/2 goblins coming into play. Okay, exquisite blood for us. Let's just get down a land. The Gargos doesn't have trample, so if it comes in at us, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, we could hold up Dismember. Let's get down the Aetherflux Reservoir, I think. Just to get that out of the way. The sooner that comes down, the better, because we can gain a lot of life from Aetherflux. And then we'll hold up Dismember and Snuff Out. And we can pass like that, I think. But yeah, so what about the people that want more multiplayer videos? Well, this is the thing that I've been struggling with again, because as a fan of EDH gameplay, if I watched the EDH channel and I didn't run it, then I would want more multiplayers as well. But finding the time, as someone who actually does run the channel, finding the time to do all that is really difficult. Like I've said a few times over the past year, keeping this channel afloat has swallowed up all of my free time and weekends, which is fine. I'm not trying to whip out the violin or anything, but it does take up a lot of time, and the multiplayers in particular take many, many hours to produce. So having said all that, I do want to try and appease as many people as possible on here. So I'm going to try and start working on these into the evenings and getting up earlier as well when needs be, in order to try and get more multiplayer games out in a week. It's not like I get up at 11 o'clock every morning, but I'll try getting up at silly o'clock in the morning and trying to get some more content out there to try and appease everyone. Oh, that's rude. Grismold coming in at us. Well, they might as well have us lose some life before our commander comes down. I'm only going to aim for about 3 multiplayers a week. We've got 2 at the moment on average, and I'm going to try and push it to 3 a week. Bear in mind, I'm nowhere near doing this for a living, so I have a very finite amount of time, like I said. But we'll just try for 3 a week and see how it pans out. I can't promise anything. Might have to go back to just 2 multiplayers a week and fill everything else out with 1v1s, because they are much faster to make. Grismold just discarded a couple of things there, because they had too many cards in hand apparently. Now going over to Gargos' turn. But yeah, that's where I am at the moment. Keeping the dailies and the 1v1s and the multis, and trying to get another multiplayer game out every week. Sol Ring coming down for Gargos. I think we're going to see the commander this turn. And a big thank you to all of you for your feedback. Some of you might be sick of the polls that I put up, but I do pride myself on trying to make gameplays and make videos that I think you all want to see. So I do use those to take the feedback very seriously. It's not like I'm just putting up polls and then ignoring everything you say. I do try and implement any changes that you want me to make, and hopefully that shows. The Great Henge coming down, followed by Nylea as well. Still haven't had much chance to use the Great Henge. I used it very briefly in a Nissa video. I'm actually going to make Reki for 1v1, I think. The History of Kamigawa, I think it is. And I think the Great Henge would be a good include in there, so yeah, I think that would be a good idea. Might even include Nylea and Palutkranos, because Reki does care about legendaries. Alright, the Palutkranos not coming in at us, going in towards Krenko. The Gargos player clearly recognising that Krenko's about to go crazy. And Palutkranos does have trample, thanks to Nylea, so they don't really have any decent blocks here. It might just be worth them taking the hit. Well, they decide to just take 3 and block with 2 plant tokens. And then whenever a creature token dies, put a plus counter on Grismold. That might be relevant when Krenko comes down, because Krenko's going to generate a lot of tokens as well. It's not plant tokens specifically, is it? No, it's whenever a creature token. So that is going to be relevant, especially if he manages to get indestructible on that, because if someone wipes the board to get rid of a bunch of goblins, that thing's going to become huge. It's already a 5-5 with trample. But down comes Krenko with haste, followed by Illusionist's Bracers. So they are not going for tapping down Krenko and then untapping him, which I think they probably should have done. Then Krenko going for an activation to get some goblins in play. Now then, do we go for Dismember onto Krenko or not? We'll see if the Goblin Warchief comes in at us first. It does not, so yeah, it might be worth leaving Krenko alone. They can actually get Krenko out again next turn and then they might swing in at us, so we'll play it cool at the minute and we'll just hold back. We get into another swamp, so let's drop that one. And we'll go for Read the Bones. And then we've got a Polluted Delta and a Sheoldred. I don't want either of those, so that's good to clear a couple off the top. We're actually getting 4 cards deep here. And then we've got a full grip of 7 with a Bolas's Citadel in hand, so that's not the worst. I say we just hold on to Snuff Out and Dismember again and pass the turn back round. We're not going to have to lose any life to Dismember, so that's a good plan here, I think. And if Grismold comes back in at us, I think it might be worth a Dismember. Another difficult thing with the multiplayers is the thing that really annoys some people, and it really annoys others when I decide to comment on it as well, so, you can please some of the people. It's the fact that some Magic Online players you find out in the wild tend to scoop early a lot. Now, this isn't something that we have come across here, and hopefully we won't do, but it is something that I struggle with on the channel, as you're all aware. Oh, Beastmaster Ascension. Well, they don't have enough tokens in play to activate it yet. But it's something to keep an eye on. Now, there is a solution to the whole early scooping thing, which a lot of you have pointed out to me over the past year, since the channel's been around, and it is all of us playing with each other. We'd have to work out time zones and stuff like that. I think we could make it work. I have an arbitrary goal in my head that I've mentioned to you all before, and it's getting past 4,000 subscribers, and then I'll set up a Patreon and a Discord for all of us. That's just a goal that I've had in my head for a few months, and I don't want to break that. Where are these going? Well, it's Beastmaster Ascension triggers first, and then we'll see where these are attacking, because it won't show us for some reason. Now we've got a token coming in at us. That's going in at us as well. We'll just take a couple of hits for 1 here. I think our opponent is looking for, blocking just 1 damage when you're at 42. I don't know. I'd rather keep the Grismold at a 5-5, to be honest. But we've got Snuff Out anyway if it becomes a problem. We're looking for a board wipe at this point anyway. Yeah, definitely just taking the hit for 1 is the thing to do there, I think. But Grismold is out of the range of Dismember now. At least Krenko, we can still Dismember if we want to. Yeah, so getting past 4,000 subscribers is what I really want to do at this point. And then I'll do the Patreon and Discord and we can all get together and start trying to get multiplayer games together. Hopefully, over the course of a few months, the Discord will become big enough where all of us can get games going whenever we feel like it. And I would think that we would all be of a similar mindset, in that we don't want to see the early scoops and stuff like that. Hardened Scales coming down for Gargos. I'm sure Grismold would like one of those. So if you could all help me with getting past the 4,000 subscribers, then that is something that I would be eternally grateful to you all for. Yep, they're going in at Krenko. Gargos player really seeing how difficult Krenko is about to be to deal with, and might actually leave Krenko in play if Gargos and Krenko are going to make enemies of each other. Yeah, this is exactly why I didn't go for Dismember at the end of our turn previously, because it may be that these two are going to be very worried about each other. Going for Monstrosity on Polukranos. Let's see what Polukranos gets rid of. Polukranos jumping up to a 10-10, and it deals X damage, divided as you choose, among any number of target creatures that an opponent controls. So, are they targeted? Yep, it's all going on Krenko. Oh, that's divided up. I think they could have put 1 damage onto a plant maybe, or maybe they don't want to kill any more plants. They just decided to put all 5 damage onto Krenko there. And now we're coming back round to Krenko's turn. So, Krenko dealt with without the use of our Snuff Out or Dismember. But yeah, I mentioned getting past the 4,000 subscriber mark and Discord and all that in the Aloro video, I think. I assume I did anyway, because there was a definite spike in subscribers on that video. And yeah, you've all really kept to your word there and supported me through the channel. And I'm very grateful to you all for that. I asked you all to subscribe and like and comment and all the rest of it, and you came in your droves to do that. You may not see it at your end, but at my end I can definitely see it. Krenko coming down and activating here. They can't untap it with the, whatever this is called, the Mage Rights Stone, thankfully. But getting a bunch of goblins into play. Yeah, so you all came in your droves, and I definitely saw a spike in subscribes there. So a big thank you to you all for that. If you could keep that up, that would be really good. If we could get spikes like that every day or even every other day, then we'd be up to the 4,000 mark in no time. And then we can move on to the next step in the channel, which I'm very excited about. And getting to play with all of you would be very, very fun. Just looking at all these goblins swinging in here. Yep. This is what I was hoping would happen. The more we're left alone, the better. Really shouldn't ignore a Vilis player or a Grismold player, but these two are just going tit for tat at each other. So we'll leave them alone until they decide to come in our way. And knocking them down to 31. Much more respectable life total, I think. Kokusho, the Evening Star. Alright, how far are we off Vilis here? 5, 6, 7, 8. We could go for it now, but we won't be able to hold up any mana. I think just going for Kokusho is alright, isn't it? Yeah, let's go for Exian Tower. And then we'll drop our Kokusho. And if anyone wants to swing into that, that's up to them. And we can also sacrifice that to the Phyrexian Tower if we want to. And that will gain us a nice chunk of life. But yeah, just for the sake of transparency, the reason that people on YouTube ask you to subscribe and like and comment and share and all the rest of it is because it helps with the channel itself and specific videos. It tells YouTube's background algorithms to push the video, and the more the video is pushed, the more people are likely to see it. The more people are likely to see it, the more people are likely to become a subscriber and a fan of that channel, and then they'll stick around and continue to watch the videos and support said channel. And that's obviously what I hope all of us would like to attain with this channel. So when you do comment and like and share the videos and things like that, it does genuinely really help. I have never, in the 14 months of this video, I haven't asked anyone to subscribe apart from that little red thing that comes up in the corner saying to subscribe, that little subliminal message thing. Couple more tokens swinging in here for getting some beast counters. I think that's 7, isn't it? It needs 7 or more counters, so they're not far off that. And yep, they've got a vendetta against us as well. We're just going to take a hit for 2. We do not need to kill off Grismold's tokens. I suppose, actually, yeah, now that I think about it, we could have killed those off. And then if our opponent has a big Grismold, so what? We can just kill it off if it comes in at us. Because we may well be facing down some 6/6 tokens next turn. If this thing goes off, which it probably will. All they have to do is swing in with their 3 tokens here. But like I said, we're looking for a board wipe here, so not really. Well, I am concerned about Grismold, but there's other concerns at the table as well. Yeah, so that's why YouTubers ask you to do that stuff. It's because it pushes the videos and the channel and helps it to grow. So it genuinely does help when people comment and all the rest of it. I'm not just asking to be a cool YouTuber. It genuinely does help when you do all that. Green player tapping a hell of a lot of mana. Feels like Genesis Wave or a big X Hydra maybe. A Finale of Devastation. An X10 Finale of Devastation. So what is that? +X with a bunch of tokens in play. Well, that doesn't seem good, does it? That might be a player or 2 out of the game here. Unfortunately, we can't get rid of the Nylea. This wouldn't be anywhere near as threatening if all the creatures didn't have trample. This doesn't give trample, does it? No, they gain haste. They do not gain trample. So Grismold's token is going to do some work here. And what do they go for? It is a Khalni Hydra. An 18/18 with trample. Well, we'll see where everything goes in first. And they will draw a card from the Great Henge and put a plus counter on that thing, so it's actually a 20/20 now. Got 2 plus counters because of the hardened scales. Everything is huge now. And the problem we've got is we can't chump block with Kakusho and sack it in response because they have trample, so all the trample damage would come through. Yeah, taking out Krenko by the looks of it here. I don't see there's a whole lot they're going to do about it. That's 33 points of power, and they can only block 4 of that, so that's Krenko down. And then Nylea going in at the Grismold player, and Pelucranos going in at the Grismold player, and then we are not getting an 11/11. That plant is going in at Grismold as well. Okay, and that is coming into us. That's a 20/20. So that actually works out very nicely for us. Us sitting back this game has really helped. So let's go for Snuff Out onto that thing so we don't take any damage. Just noticed as well that the... which player is that? The Grismold player is a fan of the channel. Deja Shade, maybe? Deja Shade, I will go with that. And, right, let's have a look at blocks here. The 20/20 Pelucranos is being blocked with 7 points of toughness. So 14 going through there. Plus 17, yeah, I think the Grismold player, friend of the channel, might be down here. And then just blocking with a plant token, yeah, Krenko is definitely going down as well. Yeah, apologies to my opponent there. I was so wrapped up in getting all this information out about my recent thoughts and things like that that I didn't think about checking the chat at any point. Oh, and heroic intervention, so making things indestructible at least. Don't know if they'll survive anyway, but they'll keep their plant tokens at least. Nope, they go down, that's -3. We don't take a hit for anything, so in true EDH channel fashion, this has become a 1 versus 1. But not as terrifying as it might have been now that the finale of Devastation has gone away. I think we need to go in for our Vilis here. So let's sack a plant token, and we'll just have to hope that there's not an overrun or something like that. Only 2 cards left in the Hydra player's hand. I'm not going to bother swinging in because I'm going to hope that our opponent doesn't get a bunch of buffs into play. But if we can manage to chain off a bunch of spells, we could go for Aetherflux Reservoir. Maybe net a bunch of life with that and go for the win on our opponent. May just go in for Bolas's Citadel next turn. Try and get a bunch of stuff off the top. Maybe make use of Verdant Catacombs to shuffle the top of the library if we get a land off the top. Okay, Greater Good. That's going to be refilling our opponent's hand. And Vilis might keep them from swinging in as well. Normally they'd want to swing in with Pelucranos to get some damage onto us. And then sacrifice it to Greater Good. But they're going through to combat, so we'll see what their aim is here. Yeah, unfortunately this thing is indestructible. That's going to be a real headache for us. But we can kill off the Pelucranos. Yeah, we can minus down Pelucranos with the Dismember. And we'll see what we draw into first before we make any further decisions, because we're putting life into Dismember. And we'll gain a little bit of life from Aetherflux Reservoir. But we lose life twice there, so Vilis will draw us a couple of cards. And then, before the Dismember goes off, the Greater Good is going to sacrifice Pelucranos, so that means that we've got less damage to worry about coming in. I was going to block the Pelucranos with Vilis, but now all we have to worry about is... how much can they plus this thing? I always forget about the plus ability on this. That is 4 there and 4 there, so that is +2/+2 twice, so that's 4 extra damage. Might just block with Kakusho. We draw a couple of cards twice because we lost 2 life twice. That's why Phyrexian Mana is so good in Vilis. And we've got Rise of the Dark Realms, which is not as good with 2 less players at the board, but we would get a Solemn Simulacrum. The Pelukrinos, which we couldn't make monstrous, but we'd have Kalni Hydra. And yeah, so that is 3 decent creatures that we'd get. Then Dismember Fizzles. We will block with Kakusho, just so we don't take as much damage. We're going to still lose some life here and still draw some cards, but Kakusho's going to gain us back some life at least. So Kakusho dies. And we... Oh, actually, does Nylea not have Trample? Oh, it gives other creatures you control Trample, but she doesn't have Trample herself. Alright, fair enough. So we just gained 5 life and had our opponent lose 5 life there. And the green player is up to 8 cards in hand now. Vivian Reed, destroy a target creature with flying, I'm reading. They may point that at the Aetherflux Reservoir, but I think they'll go for Vilis here. I'm hoping they go for Vilis, actually. Nope, they do go for Aetherflux Reservoir. Very, very wise of them to do that, because our plan was definitely to go in for Bolas's Citadel there and start getting a bunch of, or try to get a bunch of cards off the top and get ourselves up to over 50 life so that we could shoot our opponent. At least now we can swing Vilis in at Vivian Reed if we want to. They cannot minus her down to kill off the Vilis next turn. What did they cast there? Animist's Awakening. Reveal the top X cards and put all lands from among them. They've got 5 cards in hand, so I'm guessing they put them into hand, don't they? Oh no, you put them onto the battlefield tapped, wow. And the rest on the bottom in a random order. So they went up a lot of mana there. There is a Lashwraith for us. So what do we want to do here? I think getting rid of the Greater Good might be a clever idea. Getting into a tutor for Cabal Coffers would be great as well. Okay, I think we're going to have to take another hit here. Let's just... What's the plus on this? Look at the top 4 cards, reveal a creature card. I really don't want... Yeah, I think we have to go for Lashwraith here anyway. Haven't really gotten into any ramp this game, unfortunately. And then Lashwraith comes down with Living Weapon, but we are planning to put that onto our commander. So that is +7/+7. It could be +8/+8. That means 2 swings in with Vilis. And our opponent's done for. So let's go like that. Oh, and we actually could have paid the life there, couldn't we? Oh, I forgot about that. Don't often use Lashwraith. Hopefully that doesn't hurt us too much. Let's go for another Swamp to put another +1/+1 on Vilis. Lose a life to the Verdant Catacombs, draw into another Swamp. Now Vilis is a 16/16, and I think this is lifelink. No, it's not lifelink, it's just +1/+1. Showing off that I don't know what Lashwraith does here. And then, yeah, it would have been nice to get down Exquisite Blood here, actually, so really being punished for not knowing what my Lashwraith does. We'll just have to hold up Malicious Affliction, I think. So let's go for Argyle's Bloodfast. And then we will swing in at our opponent. We're going to try and get commander damage here. 1 more hit next turn, and they should be done for. Does their commander have reach? It has vigilance, not reach. So we'll leave it at that. We'll hold up the Malicious Affliction. Yeah, would have been really good to get Exquisite Blood down there because we would have had 16 life loss from our opponent and we gained 16 life. Just going to have to keep our fingers crossed that our opponent doesn't get into a big buff spell here. Vivian Reed being plussed, so yeah, they could draw into Crater Hoof or something like that. Hopefully us not gaining life won't be too big of a punishment here. They've got all the mana in the world and 6 cards in hand. Haven't even cast their commander this game. Okay, Gargos coming down. Not immediately worried about Gargos. That will trigger the Great Henge and put a couple of plus counters on their Gargos though. The Great Henge, Hardened Scales, and Nylea is a nice combination of cards, is it not? Get card draw, big buffs on your creatures and trample. Then a Molder. Destroy a target artifact or enchantment with CMC X. Yeah, don't particularly care about losing that, to be honest. We're not exactly struggling on losing life here. Followed by Primordial Hydra. Nothing has haste here as far as I can tell. Enters with X counters. At the beginning of your upkeep, double the number of counters on it. Has trample as long as it has 10 or more, yeah. Well, our aim is to just swing in at our opponent for the victory here, so they might have Plummet or something like that. But if they swing in here, then I'm probably going to allow it just for the card draw because we do want to wipe the board. Oh, but Swiftfoot Boots is hiding over there. I didn't notice that, so now we've got a lot of damage to worry about. I think we're still alright. Is there any point blocking here? Well, we can block 7 points of it, can't we? Yeah, we can actually go for Morbid. So let's go through to blocks. We block there with a plant token because that doesn't have trample, as we've already established. And then in response to blocks, we sacrifice the plant to the Phyrexian Tower. But there's a Berserk. Okay. So that is 20 damage being dealt to us, I think. Is it plus X, where X is its power? At the beginning of the next upkeep, destroy it. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. We actually could have gone for Malicious Affliction before now, couldn't we? Yeah, that's me being not very good at magic, apparently. So that goes up to 20 points of power. I don't think we've been dealt any damage by Gargos yet, have we? Well, we'll sack the plant token. And we'll go for Malicious Affliction onto that. And then Gargos gets to fight something else. So it's probably just going to fight our plant token here. Malicious Affliction gets copied. So we'll just blow up their Elvish Mystic as well. I don't think the mana really matters, but Gargos is going to fight a couple of times because we're targeting their creatures, so they get rid of a plant token that we're not using. And then we blow up a couple of their Hydras, or one of their Hydras and the Elf. Oh, and then they decide to fight our commander. Okay, I didn't think they'd do that, so, well, that actually keeps them in the game. If they're not going to take us down to commander damage, then they might as well do that. They decided to sack it to the greater good. Oh, actually, that's a point. Yeah, I think they sacrificed the creature that we were destroying. Let's have a look here. Okay, yeah, the greater good sacrificed the X. Which one is it? The Primordial Hydra to draw a bunch of cards, and then for our commander, so that the two commanders took each other out. Maybe shouldn't have gone for Malicious Affliction for that exact reason, because I don't think... Oh, they could have fought anyway, and they would have taken each other out anyway, so yeah, don't think it makes all that much difference in the end. We lose a little bit of life to the plant tokens, and then Berserk has to destroy the commander anyway, so we don't take the 20 points of commander damage. Pretty clunky game here, but to be honest with you, I'm really just uploading this game to talk to you all about the stuff that I've spoken to you about previously, so my head's not exactly in the right mindset for this game currently. Apologies to any of you that upsets. Discarding a Krosan Grip, Llanowar Tribe, Beast Whisperer, a Harrow, and a Domesticated Hydra. We've got Alhamrit's Archive. Let's go for a Swamp. And we still don't have any haste, unfortunately, but how much does Rise of the Dark Realms do for us? Well, we get Kakusho out of our own graveyard. Actually, could have, yet another mistake, could have put Vilis into our graveyard, couldn't we? But we've got Beast Whisperer. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in our opponent's graveyard. I think we might have to go for Rise of the Dark Realms here. So let's do just that. Get a Solemn Simulacrum trigger. Left the Phyrexian Tower up to sacrifice something. We'll obviously get a Swamp with that. And then we can go Lash Wraith onto something if we want to. We're not particularly bothered about doing that, I don't think, although a hasty Gargos might make us think otherwise. We don't have anything with lifelink, do we? So let's go for how likely are they to get protection against green or black. They might have a Feast and Famine in the library in order to get their commander through. So let's go for the Lash Wraith onto the Solemn Simulacrum. We'll sacrifice Paradise Druid, although this is a mana of any colour, so we can actually activate green abilities here, can't we? Although that taps for 3 green. Yeah, so we can sacrifice this thing. We've got production of 4 green here with our 2 Lanoir mana dorks. So we'll go Lash Wraith onto Solemn, just in case our opponent gets protection from a colour. And that's a 12/12 Solemn. And we'll pass the turn like that, see what our opponent can do. Now then, what's the monstrosity on this? As long as it's monstrous, it has Trample. And this pings a bunch of stuff. Yeah, they're the only 2 monstrous effects we have currently. But our opponent has a full grip of 7 and a whole heap of mana, plenty of means of drawing cards as well. Plus they've got haste in play. We have hardly gotten into any ramp, and we haven't gotten into any of our haste either. That is even more mana. If our opponent doesn't pull away with this game, then they've been very, very unlucky. Colonian Hydra, that's really good with a Nylea with a plus counter, but the Colonian Hydra itself is going to enter with a bunch of plus counters as well. Enters with 5 because of the +1 from the Hardened Scales, then it gets another 2 from the Great Henge and Hardened Scales. So that is a 14/14 with Trample coming in next turn. I think we really need to get into either a tutor or something with haste pretty quickly here. Then it is destroy a target artifact. We can still just swing in at our opponent for lethal commander damage, so don't really need to see the back of the Lash Wraith, to be honest. Oh, Selvala is really, really good, and they can put haste on it. Need to make a commander deck for this in 1 versus 1 as well. Whenever another creature enters, its controller may draw a card if its power is greater than each other creature's power. That's why they needed to get rid of Lash Wraith, I think. Then green and tap, add X mana in any combination of colours, where X is the greatest power amongst creatures you control. They actually don't control the biggest creature currently, but they're about to, with the Lifeblood Hydra. Not getting into many reaches currently. They can get rid of our Kakusho with Vivian Reed, but that will kill her off. Another card draw and counter from the Great Henge. Selvala will draw as well, because this thing is a huge 10/10. That'll be a 20/20 next turn, when the Colonian Hydra swings in. Could be this turn as well, if our opponent decides to put haste on this thing. Instead, putting it on the mana dork currently. They've still got a mana floating, and they're going to generate a bunch of mana from Selvala, so they'll be able to put it onto the Colonian Hydra this turn if they want to. And then Triumph of the Hordes. Yeah, I don't think they get us with Triumph of the Hordes. They've got a bunch of trample stuff coming through. They are going to force us to block. Oh, and this has trample. How has that got trample? I'm missing something here. How has that got trample? Vivian Reed going for the minus onto Kakusho. So that'll be a 10-point life swing, but our life total is the last thing we're worried about currently. Taking our opponent down to 9, and they are at 34. They're looking to go wide with Infect here. We can take a few bits of Infect. Yeah, the Colonian Hydra is going to be a 16/16 with Trample and Infect. We might be able to deal with all this, I don't know. And a Rampant Growth with the floating mana. Looks like they don't have much else to do. This might be a Hail Mary for them. But thanks to the greater good, they can still draw a bunch of cards by sacrificing the Lifeblood Hydra. This will draw them cards as well as the greater good. They actually only have 47 cards left in the library. Then choose a creature you control. Whenever it deals combat damage, you draw that many cards, so they're looking for this thing to deal combat damage this turn. They only have to deal 10 points of damage here, so I don't know if we can actually block all of this. I think these plant tokens are actually going to be relevant, thanks to our friend Grismold. Just going to wait for our opponent to swing in with everything before I decide how to block. They're not going in with Nylea, which is a blessing. Colonian Hydra jumps up to a 16-16. Alright, so that is 16 and 6. That's 22 points of infect damage coming through. Well, how much toughness do we have? That's 6, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 23, 25. Yeah, we should be alright here. We have to block with pretty much everything though. That's 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's all that done. And then we go, yeah, I think we just go like that, don't we? I don't think we need to block anymore. Yeah, so we'll just go like that and we'll take the 6 points of infect damage. I don't think there's anything I'm missing, like double strike or anything. No, it's infect and trample. Yep, there we go. So we take 6 points of infect damage. I think that's pretty much all the infect damage we're going to have to worry about in this deck. Yeah, I think this is pretty much the only card that we're going to have to worry about with regards to infect. It might be that they've got some proliferate in the deck because they've got all the plus counters. We are not doing well here, are we? We haven't really drawn much of anything. Let's lay down the swamp. And I think we're just going to have to go for a Bolas's Citadel here. So let's sack the Solemn. And that'll draw us a card. Obnixilis kills a creature, which could get rid of the Lifeblood Hydra. It's this Nylea that's a big problem for us. Let's just go for Bolas's Citadel, and we will attempt to get something going here. Watch us reveal a land off the top now. Okay, there's Expedition Map. Exsanguinate does nothing. And I don't think drawing into it does anything either. And I think I've played a land this turn, annoyingly. Mistakes left, right and centre. Yep, played a snow-covered swamp this turn. Could have gone for Cabal Coffers. That would be Obnixilis, play Obnixilis, draw into Exsanguinate, crack this, play the Cabal Coffers, tap out for a boatload of mana and kill off our opponent with Exsanguinate. That's why you always hold off on your lands for the turn. So, that's annoying. So, we're fishing for a board wipe then, aren't we? So in that case, we'll shuffle up the library and go for Expedition Map. Well, like I said, I'm going to upload this anyway just because it's an interesting game and because I said everything that I said previously. Ooh, Decree of Pain. Well, there we go. Works out alright in the end, doesn't it? So let's go for Decree of Pain. And we're going to draw a bunch of cards here, as is our opponent. They might even deck themselves. They're on 47 cards. They decide to sack the Lifeblood Hydra. They're going to draw, I think that's like 21 cards twice, isn't it? I don't know if they needed to do that. But they're going to do it anyway. I think Nylea is still going to be active is the problem. Okay, they sacrifice something else. It doesn't tell you what they're sacrificing, which is annoying. Oh, Pelucranos. No, Selvala. They sacrifice Selvala. They might deck themselves here. They're actually trying to make the creature count less, I think, for the Decree of Pain. Let's tap these for mana before I forget and make yet another mistake. Lifeblood Hydra is going to draw them a bunch of cards. They are down to 19 cards. I think they're decking themselves here. They are down to 0 cards in the library, so as far as I can tell, we just pass through to next turn and win the game. Mono Green drawing a whole heap of cards. We have absolutely no right to win this game because I have played terribly. But our opponent has drawn far too many cards. And there we are. They lose the game by drawing with the greater good into an empty library. Yeah, and our opponent's a good sport about it. They see their mistake. Yeah, like I said, we had no right in winning that whatsoever. Let's draw a heap of cards. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cards that would have died. 5, 6, and 7. Then would have played Bloodchief Ascension off the top. And then that's Bojuka Bog, so we couldn't have cleared that away. Yeah, so probably going to cast the Haunt of Hightower. And that would have become huge with a Greater Good in play. And Lifelink probably would have kept it in the game. So yeah, very interesting game between the two of us there. Like I said a few times, I played horrendously that game because my head's elsewhere currently. I recorded this game just to talk to you all about the stuff that I spoke to you about at the beginning of the game, like I've said multiple times at this point. But ended up winning this one by accident pretty much. So like I said, this really doesn't count as a victory because I played so horrendously. And it was really my opponent's mistake that won us the game. So it doesn't count as a victory, but it was an interesting game nonetheless, and those are the ones that I really like to upload to the channel. Don't really care all that much about wins and losses. I just like to see interesting interactions. And we saw a really good mono green Gargos list. So hopefully you all got some enjoyment from this game. Big thank you for your continued support of the channel. And here's to getting above 4,000 subscribers. Big thank you for your continued help with that. Very much appreciated. I'm tribalkai on the EDH channel. Thank you for watching.